Okay, this is Duncan Fowler, and we're going to do tutorial 11, Stäubli programming, and we're going to introduce the concept of frames, which is an extremely powerful feature within Val 3. So basically, imagine you've got two pallets on your bench, and you want your robot to pick from one pallet and place them in the other pallet, which is quite a common requirement in industry. And you set it up, you teach it the position, maybe you teach it one position on pallet one, one position on pallet two, and you know the offsets and stuff, and you write the code we've done before. But what happens if somebody comes along, knocks things, and you've basically got to start again? What frames allows us to do is imagine that the robot has got this world coordinate system based around its center point. What we can do is create local coordinate systems around the pallets. So if pallet 1 or pallet 2 moves, all we have to do is redefine where the origin for the pallet is and which direction the X and Y go. And then if somebody knocks it, we just reteach it. So let's have a look at what we're going to try and do today. Okay, so we're going to bring in 6 bottles, and we're going to stack them together, 45mm gap between each one. We're going to get the robot to pick them up in a sort of 3x2 matrix and put them in a 2x3 matrix of a pallet. And we'll teach it the original position of the first bottle that it's just picked up, and we'll teach it the first position of the pallet location. We will also teach it the XY coordinates of where the bottles are, and we'll teach it the XY coordinates of where the pallet is. And so it will understand the frames. And what we've done here is we've just we know that where it's picking up from is 45 in X and 45 in Y, the pitch between each one. We know that it's not the same on the pallet, so we alter the code for that. And let's just speed this up a little bit. I'll just wind to the front and say that basically it gets to the end and it puts all the bottles in our pallet. The tutor will then go and ask you to move the pallet, and we will then teach it the new XYZ coordinates of the pallet, and it should be fine. So that's the first example. So as you can see, we've moved the pallet. We've not only moved it in X, we've rotated it a little bit, which adds a really big problem for us if we were going to do it the traditional way of just knowing the offsets, because the offset would not just be X 45mm or whatever in X. It's also got a Y. So this rotation is quite a problem for us if we didn't use frames. And so these bottles has its own location, its own coordinate system, and so does this. So there's 3 coordinate systems in this example: the world coordinate system based on the robot, the coordinate system based on this frame where the bottles are, and then the frame for the pallet. One thing you could look at, by the way, if you look in the top, I don't know if it's coming across too well, but when the gripper goes close to an object you can pick up, it says in reach, comes up with a little there, so grasp possible. So let's speed this up to show you that it does get to the end and puts the last one in. does it a little bit slower. That's because I was moving. Stäubli, when you do a recording, does go very, very slowly, and else it doesn't pick up the objects. And also, if you move anything, it slows the computer down. Okay, back to the tutorial. Just quickly run through this. I'm not going to say what we're going to do on it every line, but we're going to bring the palette in. We're going to position it at a location. We're going to bring a bottle in and position that accordingly. We're going to call the bottle a part. Then we have to keep renaming things, which is quite frustrating. And also when we bring it in, this handle point of the part is quite a distance away. So we'll ask you to manually move it and position it in the center of the sort of the cap of the bottle. And then we'll do a similar thing for the palette. So there you can see we've copied and pasted the first bottle at 45 millimeters away from each other, and then we make the palette apart. It just helps it a little bit with this, because what it does is it allows us to define a handle, which is going to put in the bottom sort of hole for where the first bottle goes. We're going to put it there. It just makes it easier when we ask it, the robot, to go to the palette. It will always go to this point, so we want it in the center of this one, just a little bit lower down than the top, but it doesn't really matter too much. So there we go. We've got all 6 bottles in position, and the palette. I'll not go too much through this code at the moment. The main things to note is this line 19 and 20, lib save and return. The first time we run the program, they will be left like they are now. And what that does is it saves what's happened, as in it calls up on line 15 another program called set frames. It runs that program, and then it gets to here and stops the code. What that does is it calculates a local coordinate system of the bottles and the pallets. Then we have to do a couple of things, and then we come back to this code, and we need to comment out by putting 2 forward slashes in there, because we want it then to get on with moving down and going through the program. Very quickly, the line 28 shows it's opening the gripper, and then we have 2 for end loops. The first one takes the position of the local coordinates of the palette, and it increments either 45 in the row or the column. And so that's for the local coordinate system for the bottle, and that's the coordinate system line 36 for the palette. And then we go through a set of move approach, picking up the bottle and moving it to the palette. And then we finish off with wait and move, send it back home, and then printing some text to the screen. In the tutorial, there's an explanation of what all the code is, and a brief description of what we're talking about by frames. So we've got this world coordinate system, and we've got this local coordinate system, which is really very useful. So we're going to create an application called Frames LBU, and we're going to put the large amount of code that we've just seen in start, but we're also going to have this set frames. Just to make it clear, do put the spell this correctly, else it won't work. If you're going to put the S on, make sure you've got the S in the program when you call it up. And that program is quite basic, spread over two pages. And so it's begin. This is an error message. It just calls up a number, and then it sets the frame to the origin of the first bottle. Then we tell it where the X and Y coordinates are, and we call it F palette frame. So that's the frame name, and we do it for both of them. In the tutorial, it shows you how to set up. I'm presuming when you're doing this tutorial, you have a very good understanding of the Stäubli software and have a complete cell that you've created yourself, which has the gripper in the table, and the gripper's been configured so it can pick up objects and stuff. This is quite a complicated tutorial, so we're going to create 2 frames, and this first point is what we're going to do is that's going to be the orientation of the this one, for frame 1, it's going to be orientation of the first bottle, the handle for the first bottle, and this is going to be, for the second frame, it's going to be the handle of the pallet, which we set in that first pocket as such, where the first bottle goes to. And then we do get the program to run. We run it once, and then we comment out lines 19 and 20. And then what should happen is the code for the frame should have a 0, 0, 0. Don't worry about the rotation. That's just a gripper rotation. The X, Y, Z means that when we go to that point on that pallet or the first bottle, it thinks it's at 0, 0, 0 of its local coordinate system. When you see these notes, then you know it's worked. So moving on. So then what we do is we're going to move the pallet 20 millimeters in X and minus 20 rotation. You can pick anything for that if you really want. It doesn't matter at all. Now, what we do then is redefine the coordinate system for the pallet, because we're only moving the pallet in this example, and we redefine the position of the pallet, and then we should be able to run the program, and it should recalculate the pallet, and it should work. Okay, let's move over to the Stäubli software now. For this example, the project actually deleted this bar because it was part of another project going, so don't worry about that. As long as you've got the TX40 robot in with a gripper and the gripper having been defined, we should be okay. This is probably using an old gripper, but it should be absolutely fine. So let's start with defining a new application. So click on the controller, right click, and a new application. And I'm going to call this frames _ LBU, that leaves Beckett University, and say OK. Just expand so everything's OK. So we've got the start and stop. Now we need to import 2 3D models, one of the bottle and one of the pallet. So hopefully you've downloaded them. So go to model, insert. We're going to leave it at the standard model. So let's insert the pallet first and say open, and OK. And it's slowly coming in. There it is. Right. So let's right click on it, edit position. So let's do 160. This value, and it says it in the tutorial, may be different depending on where it's come into. This has come in slightly different to the tutorial, so I'll just type in the numbers of the tutorial and then see how it looks. I think we might have to slightly change it a little. I think particularly the Y value. Let's have a look. We'll try it anyway. Yeah, it's too far out. Where's the rotation? There we go. I think the rotation might be okay. So we'll rotate it right. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that it's reasonably square to the tabletop, which it is done. I'm going to put it around there. Let's just right click and do close up. And then I'm using the software without a mouse, which makes it quite hard for me to drive. Okay, so let's just put it just there's fine. Okay, the -9 just sets the rotation. I'll just look from the side and make sure it's on the right height. Yeah, it seems to be fine. Okay, let's go back to perspective view. I'm going to just rotate a little bit around. It looks like there's an object in the scene there, which I'll try and get rid of in a second. I'm trying to get a nice view so I can keep coming back to it. That's probably okay. Just go to camera and save that view. There it is. Let's rename it. Right, so I've got the bottom camera view. I'll forget those. Right, so let's now insert our bottle. Okay, that's actually not so far away from where I want it to be. I'm just going to put it maybe just a bit. Maybe. Okay, I'm going to put it there. Just check it's touching the tabletop. Yeah, it looks fine. Yeah. Okay. So let's change these into parts. So if you select the first bottle, right click on it and make it a new part. So what we've done, I'll just close this tree, open the parts menu, and we've got something called bottle and handle. I don't like the word bottle, so let's rename. Let's go to the properties window, select the part, and let's rename it bottle _1. Right, let's see if I can just get that. Just delete that part, it shouldn't be there. Right, now what I need to do is work out where that handle is, and I want the handle, which is where the robot gripper can pick up the bottle from, to be at the center of the lid and just a little bit down, maybe halfway down the lid. If I zoom extents all, you can see it's right over there, which is not where I want it. So let's move it a bit closer. So let's just get it sort of somewhere in the ballpark, and then we can get a bit closer. Let's right click and close up, and just zoom out a little bit. Ooh. Right, let's select the handle again. The edit's still on for the handle. It's sort of like a toggle, and I'm going to position it in the center of the cap. We could go and look at use center from 3 points and be really accurate at this, but for today I don't think it really matters. And I'm just going to drop it down to just a little bit higher than halfway, and that's fine. Let's switch the handle off, that's okay. Let's go to the palette, right click and make a part. And let's, again, I'm not keen on that name, so let's call it the palette. And let's just expand the palette and we should see the handle. There we go. Let's see what that, go to perspective view, see where the handle is. Yeah, again, it's miles away. These are really referred to get defined in the 3D modeling package. So you might want to look at how you model things and stuff to help you when here. But it's with the handle, but it's not too bad. I mean, I think we can sort this out. Let's have a look on top, see if I can. That's not great, is it? Let's grab the base of the robot. No, still the defining a handle is with the edit button is a toggle, so you need to switch it back off. So relative position of the base. I don't want to move the base. I want to just rotate the first joint just a little bit out of the way, so I can see what I'm doing here. That's a bit better. Right, let's just switch that off. Get back to the palette. It's a little bit hard to work out where we want the the handle. Back, handle, edit. It's quite hard is this to work out. Let's just look at the side view, make sure it's, I just want it to be a little bit underneath. There we go. So let's switch off that. Go back to our camera view. Really all very small, these little icons, there we go. Okay, so you can just see the handle for the palette and the handle. Well, it's a little bit lower down, so don't worry about that. So what we're going to do now is I need to select the bottle. Sometimes, right, there we go. I'm going to copy paste, but it doesn't really offer the paste here. So if you come here and you want bottle 1, so go to the tree, do a copy, and then you do a paste here. And you can see it's changed color, but what's actually happened is bottle 1 has been copied and it's exactly in the same place. So let's just change that to bottle 2. And I know that I want to move it. What we're going to do is we're going to have a sort of a 3 by 2, and then we're going to have a 2 by 3, so we can show you just add a little bit more complexity as such. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and move it 45 in, let's have a look. I think it's Y. Let's just try that. Nope, minus 45, sorry. There you go. What we need to do now is just check, very frustratingly, we need to check that the handle has come with it. And guess what? No, it hasn't. Oh, actually, let's have a look. let's do a close-up. It's just too close. Let's go back to, okay, actually it looks as though it has, so yeah, that's good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create the other 4 bottles. So I need another one for further up, and then I need to create 4 more. So I'm going to create bottle 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so hopefully you know how to do that now. Don't forget to switch off the edit button when you're copying. Okay, so we've got all 6 bottles in place. And you can see the handles are all in the right position, which is great, very useful. Depending on how you model these and stuff, you might have to create each one individually. So what we need to do now is we need to put this bottle here in the first slot on the palette, and then so forth. Let's move to the code. I'm going to just go back to my camera view. It's a nice view, is that? I'm going to open up the start code, and I'm going to copy in the code from my my tutorial booklet. Okay, so I've copied all that in now. Now we need to define things. Just check, yeah, everything's there. So I strongly recommend you read the tutorial for what this code does, but it's quite a basic 2 for loops to do the rows and columns of the palletizing. Now what we need to do is click on the frames here, right click, and do add new program. And let's call this set frames. Now we have to make sure it absolutely matches the words, set frames, capitals, everything. There's a line on 15, because that line on 15 is going to call up this subset of code. So there we go. And then let's copy and paste in the code for that. Okay, we've got all the code in now. We need to start defining things. So the error is right click, add new. It's an unvariable. P origin. Because the way we've used the P is defaulting to the correct stuff, and it's same for all of this. And F palette is a frame, which is picking up, so the F, and then just repeat for the next line. Okay, let's go to the main program now. So it's clear the screen and print whatever you want on the screen. It's up to you. We've got a joint mode here, so it's right click. This is a safe place for the robot. I'm going to pick joint RX for that one. This is a gripper name. We'll need to define that in a little while, what the offset value for the gripper is, but we'll do that in a little while. So that is a tool. Yeah, that's correct. And this is the motion descriptor. So we have a motion descriptor. It looks like I've used this motion descriptor sometimes before. I'm just going to put the number 2 on there. It's going to default to the default speed and stuff. Just going to take that bracket off. Moving down, so we're going to define the gripper. Let's have a look. And this is just a little counters, so the little num variables again. Yeah, it's picking it up. This is a benefit of using the right sort of naming convention. Keep moving down. Get in there. So it looks as I've used F-palette before, maybe when I was writing the tutorial and stuff, so I'll just put a little A there. You shouldn't have this. Yes, I've got it again there. And this is the approach point. So when we pick the bottles up and stuff, we want a nice safe distance above the bottles. So we'll find out if we miss something out in a minute. So let's just go to the data, the tools, and this is how far we want to be off when we lift up the bottle from the table. So let's put minus 100 in there. I also need to make sure that I define the gripper. So remember, we've got this gripper, it's defined and stuff, but we need to tell the computer how far it from the sort of, imagine the wrist to the end of the tool center point. So let's go back to the code. I've actually done this, got other applications in this tutorial, and you probably will do as well. I tend to close them when I'm not using them, so I'm just going to go and open one up now. It doesn't really matter which one I do. Let's have a look. let's do frames. So I've got frames in here, and I've got a tool. It's the same name, and it's the same. It's the values I want, so I can go and get that. Right click on there and copy. Let's close that now, and I'll just go back to here and just paste that information in, so I don't have to go through the rigmarole of having to store that out. So let's close them. I don't need this old application I've done a tutorial on, so let's close it. And let's see if I've missed anything out. So I'll do a bound check. No, I've done everything okay. So let's just close that window. Right. Okay, we need to start defining some points. So let's go to bottle 1. It's coming up with it's bottle, but it is bottle 1. It's because it's taking the model name. So let's just click on there. So there we go. Right. So let's right click on there and say here. So you're telling the robot to move to the handle point of part 1. Right. Let's go to the geometry tab. Expand the geometry world, and go and find the first position, which is there, and right click and say here with configuration. So okay, so we've got the first point sorted, and we can click on the palette, and because the handle is in the pocket for where the first bottle goes. If we right click here, right, it goes into the right place there, so that's quite good for this, the second point here with configuration. Okay. Right, so we've got these 2 points now. Let's go to the F palette. Palette 1, we want the first point to be associated with palette 1. So if I can drag that in and drop it in there, and do this for where are we? For palette 2. I'm actually conscious that I've renamed them palette 2, so we might have to change that later on. You shouldn't have that. That's seen there. I might have to move them back. We'll find out in a bit. But you, like I say, you shouldn't have them. If I could double click on this, you see that these numbers are related to the world coordinate system. When we calculate this frame, we want the X, Y, Z. We're not too bothered about the rotations. The X, Y, Z to be 0 because that's the first position. But at the moment, we haven't calculated it. Okay. Let's go back to our. I'm quite happy with this. Just move this robot up a little bit, and I'm going to call that home. And again, right click here with configuration. Sorry, here. Okay. And let's go to the first object. Right click, and here again. and this is where's the origins? Origin 1. And we define that as the first point, but it's also the origin 1. So we can do right click here with configuration and click on the palette, right click, move here, and that's the origin of 2, which is hopefully making a little bit of sense because we've got the origins here for the palette. So this calculation is defining the palette. Right. So now what we need to do is tell it where its X and Y is. So let's go back here again. I know we're bouncing around and I know it's probably not the most efficient way of doing this. So we're here. We know that X is along this axis. So I mean, I know we could just move the robot using the Cartesian. But what I'm going to do, I know that that bottle is on the X-axis. So if I ask it, the robot, to move there, that would represent a point on the X-axis. It could be anywhere on that X-axis, anywhere. In fact, the further away, the more accurate this will get. But for today, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to do here with configuration. I also know that this is along, if you're looking at the bottom of the screen here, you can see that bottle 3 is on the Y-axis. So if I do a here configuration, that will be where are we? Y2, Y1. No, there it is. Right click and here with configuration. Now let's go back to it's just everything's starting to pop out. It's tidy up a bit. We know what we can actually do. Get it to move to that. And we know that the X is in that direction, the Y is in this direction. So let's click on the robot, right click and do it another way, which do the Cartesian. And you should be able to just grab the robot and it will move along in that direction. So move it somewhere along the X, and that is X2. So there it is. Here with configuration, I'm just going to send it back to Y and then move it, sorry, not Y, to the origin again, and move it along the axis here, and that is Y2. When I find it, there it is. Here with configuration. Right, in the geometry tab, what I want you to do now is go to the top, right click on there and do a check frames. Hopefully we get no errors, which we don't. And now what we're going to do is run the program. Okay, I have just moved away and started with different, going to be naming conventions a bit better. So I've defined the bottles, locations and stuff, back where I need to run the code so we can calculate the frames. So if I go to the top, show emulator. Not going to simulate it because it's not going to do anything because we've got that code in. It's basically just asking for it to calculate the 2 frames. Just run and say OK, move, and it's just holding, and it's actually gone through the program and finished. It doesn't come up with, if you remember on the code right at the end, it says type to the screen end program, but it never gets past line 20. So it's stop that. There's nothing to stop, obviously. Let's just have it, if I'm honest. Let's go to the geometry tab. Let's go to the first bottle and get it to move there. And what we do know is that is the first position. So if I now say here with configuration, if I now double click on that, it has all gone zeros because it's now created its local coordinate system. So let's go to the palette, right click on there, move to control, and that is the second position. Right click here with configuration. Okay, so that's worked. Right, so now what we need to do is go back to the code and comment this out. I'm going to leave it in because we're going to move the palette later on and recalculate, so I'll just leave it in there. Let's save the work. I'm going to run this very slowly because the Stäubli software really struggles with the 3D graphics of things. What you should be able to see is the gripper moves towards the bottle, and the top right hand corner it should change from a distance away from the bottle to the fact that it's capable of grasping. If it doesn't pick everyone up, don't worry. It's all to do with the graphics. One way to get a little bit better visuals is to really slow the playing of the emulator and stuff. Especially if you want to use the record movie, and then you can always either just leave it as a slow video like I did, or you could go into just play back twice as fast. Because I'm also using screen capture software, I'm not sure whether it will play particularly well here, but we'll have a go. Let's right click, show emulator. Just move it to the side so you can see things. We will switch the simulation on now. Go back to the emulator, power up. Let's go and find our code. There it is. Let's run it. 5% speed. Yeah, it's quite slow, but we'll see. So it's written the text, and now it's asking me to press. So it is moving very slowly. So if you look at the top of the screen, it said grasp, gripper handled. So if you can see it slowed down as soon as I started moving my cursor. So I better leave it alone. I'll let it do one or two and then I'll stop it. I just want to make sure that it's doing the right rows and columns and stuff. So it should pick. I've deliberately designed this so that we go in. We're doing a different set of bottles in relation to a 2x3 and putting it in a 3x2. Just to help with the understanding of the program and stuff. So it's definitely gone to the next position on the palette and it's picking up. I just want to make sure that it picks up the next bottle and puts it in the next slot on the palette, and then I might speed it up and may or may not work. Probably believe won't work. So it's picked up that, and it's going into this third slot. So it looks as though the program is working, which I expected. And I'll see if I can speed it up a little bit. So I'll just let it move away from the bottle, and now it's just crank it up. Maybe 15, 25, sorry. Yeah, it's still picking up. Might not do at the end. It just do some. Okay, so it's going home. There we go, and it's the end of the program. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned earlier where when you've got everything settled and stuff, you really do need to make sure you have saved the position of the bottles and everything. So let's stop my emulator. Stop this simulator. I've done it out of order, so it comes up with an error message. I'm going to reset the positions. Everything seems to have worked. The code seems to have worked. Just go to the code. Just make sure you're reasonably okay with this. So this is the rows and columns for the bottle, and this is the rows and columns for the palette. There's a bigger pitch between the rows and columns of 85. It basically is taking the column number and times in it. So the first time it all goes through, all of that will be nothing. So the first location to pick a bottle up will be where P first is, but we know that is at 0, 0, 0, and it will be putting it at 0, 0, 0 on the palette because 45 times nothing is nothing, etc. And then the way this is working, it will just increment each other down. Okay, so that seems to have worked. Let's see if we can move the palette. You can move this anywhere you want and have a go, but you might want to just do it a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the palette, edit its position. I'm going to move it 20 units in X, and I'm going to rotate it as well. So it's not that far removed. It's just it's all in me camera shot, which I kind of like. So that will be a nightmare for us because we've gone back to the code. We're just incrementing in 45 millimeters, going up and down rows and stuff. But this is now produced an angle. So if you went from the bottle 1, then 2, that's not on the same world axis, but it is on the same local axis. Okay, so we've moved it. So let's right click on here. Come on. And move the robot. You can see actually I've come to a different model, and the gripper's a different gripper, but it doesn't really matter. So this is where part 2 would be. Sorry, the first number 2 palette location. So we can see here with configuration. That is also the origin of the palette. So we can just do it again. And now what we need to do is define the X2 and Y2. So if we click on the base of the robot, right click, and we've already got it up, but if you haven't already got it up, actually it was just a movement. This is a Cartesian. With it all, what you can do is grab the icon here and just slide it along, so you can see it's actually going along the x-axis, which is really very helpful. So let's move it along the x-axis, and that we know is x2. Right click here with configuration. Let's go back to the origin. In truth, you don't have to go back to the origin. You just need to move in a wide location, but I kind of like the idea of going back here. It makes a little bit more visual sense to me. I'm going to go up in Y, and so that's Y2. Here with configuration. Now we need to go back to the code. We need to be able to run this calculation again. Let's save that. Go to the simulation. Now we've moved the palette. What we need to do is remember to save the initial positions again. Let's save it. everything's good. So when it palletizes and we want the bottle to come back out, if we didn't save the initial positions, the pallet is considered as a part and it would jump back to its original position. We don't really want to do that. Let's go to the top and run the emulator. I don't have to simulate it because it's going to take that code and just do the calculation again. Run, okay, and move. It's not doing anything. It's got going down the code and it's got to the line 19 and 20, and hopefully it's calculated the new pallet 2 position. Let's close that. Close that. Let's select pallet 2 and right click and move here. And what we know that should be the first position of P-first 2. So if we right click and say here with configuration, double click. Oh, it's a little bit out, let's do that again. Now, because things have changed, what we need to do is reload the application. So if we go to Frames LBU, right click and reload the application. Go down, and we're particularly interested in the palette 2. You can see actually alphabet, you'll see a lot needs when you do that. There we go. And we're at the origin of the palette, and if we right click there and say here with configuration, now if we double click, it's all zeros, which is great. That's exactly what we wanted to happen. Now let's go to the Cell Explorer, go to the start code, label these out, comment these out, save the work, go back to the beginning. I can get a bit more space on a screen, and right click, show the emulator. Return. There it is. Switch the simulation on. Power it up. 5. Yeah, we'll run at 5 for now. Run. Okay. Move. So just like before, it should pick up the bottle, first bottle, but it should take it to the new position because the pallet's moved. It's moved 20 units away and it's rotated as well. And the rotator won't have anything much on the first position. So that's worked, which we would have expected it to do. But if the frames have worked properly, it's more to do with all the other bottles. So it's coming back. You can see at the top of the right screen that grasp is possible. So it's within that. I've set this to the gripper device to be anything within 25 millimeters that's a handle, it can be grabbed. Yeah, it looks like it's taken the rotation of 20 degrees, and it looks as though it's working. We'll let this play out. So while it's doing this, we'll just recap. What we've done is we've created 6 bottles. We've created them as parts. We've named them as bottle 1 to 6. We've created a palette, created that as a part, and all of them we've had to set the handles. The real reason we set the palette as a part is simply because when we create that handle, we can keep jumping to it all the time. It's really, that's the only reason in this tutorial for doing that. Once we did that, we put the code in, which has two main parts: the main body of the text that does the palletizing as such, and then there's these set frames. And in the main body of the text, where the lines 19 and 20 that ran the set frames, we only really have to do that once. And then we defined the main points, and we defined the XY coordinates of the pallet and the bottles. And then what we did is we moved the pallet, and then we redefined the XY coordinates of the pallet, and it's because of the way the frames works, the coordinate system of F pallet 2, the frame, has been updated. That's why the first part, number 2, for the pallet is 000, because it's local coordinate system against global coordinate system, and that is a really powerful tool. So it looks as though it's going to put it in, and it looks as though we are all done here. Yeah, quite a complicated tutorial. I hope it's been useful to you. I hope you managed to follow it all. Okay, that's it. Let's go into position, switch the power off. Get the error message from the simulator. There we go. Reset the bottles, and we can play this as on as we want. We can move the palette around, just keep redefining it and stuff. Like I said, the beauty of creating the palette as a part is we get this coordinate system already in there, which is really, really helpful. Okay, thanks a lot for listening, guys. I hope it's been useful.